welcome to the Slow Ride Reviews podcast. This is Tim in Orlando.
This is Matt in Minneapolis.
Now, you may notice that there's only two of us on right now, and this is a brand new kind of show for us. You can always go to the Slow Ride podcast for the whole flavor. This review podcast is going to be, periodic. We get hit up a lot to do reviews of product, to read books, to watch movies, and just to have general, say in the bike culture. For some reason, people want to hear our opinions.
Yeah, we don't get it, but...
And so every now and then, you might find Spencer on, you might find Little Guy, find myself. But we're pretty excited about it. This is kind of our first take on the show. So this week, this time we're just going to be talking two reviews. And the first is that we're going to be talking to Joe Mungo Reed, who's the author of a book called As We Begin Our Ascent. Sorry, I was saying Descent because I was thinking of the Thomas Dekker book.
No, you can't get that out of your head, can you?
No, I can't. Completely opposite books.
Devote an entire show to that at some point, it seems. You must have a lot to say on that topic.
Yeah, I really liked it. I liked the book, and I got to say, he was a really good interview. It was fun.
He was. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully all you guys will enjoy hearing it, and maybe you'll be interested in the book.
On the back end, we're going to be talking about my Supermarche, which is the Yuba cargo bike that I purchased a little while back because of Little Heimar. Talk a little bit about how that's kind of changed our lifestyle. I'm sure Little Guy's got some questions. There's a bunch of tech jargon that I can go through, which I don't really know what it means, but Little Guy can tell me if it's vertically compliant or laterally stiff. But anyways, I'm pretty excited about this podcast. It's going to mix it up every now and then, try to keep it pretty informative for you. If you have anything that you would like opinions or thoughts on, you can always email us at theslowridepodcast@gmail.com. And also, if you can hit subscribe or leave us a review so others can find this, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
You'd probably appreciate it too, Little Guy.
I would appreciate it, yes. Hopefully, let us know what you think of this, and we'll be adjusting as we go and see how this goes.
Now, I know a lot of people are going to want us to review Kleins. That could happen. Maybe we could do as like a whole review of the Klein paint jobs, or maybe we actually save that for a Klein paint job draft corner.
That would be a good
actually
thing.
Be pretty good. But anyway, let's get into the reviews. We're excited to welcome Joe Mungo Reed, the author of We Begin Our Ascent, to the Slow Ride Reviews podcast. You have the privilege of being the first ever guest that we've had on this podcast, Joe.
Great, thank you.
And where are you from?
So I'm from the UK. I was born in London and grew up in Gloucestershire in the south of the UK. And now I live in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Nice. I'll be there in about 2 weeks' time. So you better watch out. I'm going to come after your Strava KOMs in your hometown, because when we received the book, We Begin Our Ascent, and we read it, thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a fun time, so we have a lot to talk to you about as far as there's not much fiction in the bike world, right?
No.
So it's definitely a subject that's primed for that kind of coverage. So it was really exciting to see that kind of detail and whatnot. So we're going to talk about that, but as we were doing some research, you were actually based out of here in the Twin Cities, which is pretty exciting.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it. Yeah, love the Twin Cities.
Twin Cities, but you wrote most of the book, my understanding, you were in upstate New York getting your master's at Syracuse?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did. I wrote the book there and blew out my knees on the many 10 to 20% gradients that New York State has to offer.
So where did you like living better, Minneapolis, Twin Cities, or Syracuse, New York?
Certainly not a trick question.
Not just because you guys have the connection, but I got to say the Twin Cities always win, I think.
Okay,
I mean,
good answer.
Syracuse is nice, of course, but same all the way.
Now, you're clearly, in reading the book, and we'll get into more of like plot and kind of the theme behind the book. You're clearly a cycling fan. Like, I mean, do you do quite a bit of riding yourself, or do you just watch Uncle Phil and Uncle Paul Sherwin on the TV and take it in that way?
A bit of both. Actually, I'm primarily a mountain biker. In my university summers, I worked as a mountain bike guide in the Alps. So that kind of gave me a bit of exposure to all of the French cycling culture to a degree, because I'd ride on the road a bit there. And every summer, I mean, the tour would be coming through most of the time because I was based in La Plagne. So there are some great stages that come through there. So that kind of cemented my fandom of cycling. But on the road, I ride mostly on the road now because I'm a bit more grown up and lack all the time to go out and go mountain biking every day. So it's inevitably the road bike I grab when I just want to take 2 hours for myself. But yeah, primarily started mountain biking, got into road, and just been following the tour all the way through.
All right. So when you started writing the book, like when did you come up with the idea to go after? I mean, the book takes place in the middle of the Tour de France, probably like starts the second week, I believe, of the tour, and it's kind of this 2-week window, but it's also intertwined with the marriage and the life of the couple, Saul, the main character, and then his wife Liz, and they have a son, and it's kind of that whole relationship as it develops over the course of the 2 weeks, but then also, their lives together. When did you come up with the idea of using, I guess, cycling as the vehicle for your first debut novel?
So I actually, as you mentioned earlier, I did a MFA in writing at Syracuse, and I sort of turned up thinking, I don't know what on earth I'm going to bring to this. I don't know what I can write about. And I'd written a chapter of this book, and I just showed it to the class that I was in on entering, and people were really enthusiastic about it. I guess because, as you said earlier, there's not a lot of fiction about cycling, and I think people felt like it was a world that they didn't know but was ripe for fiction. This was 2012, so it's actually just prior to all of the Armstrong stuff peaking, but I guess there was interest in it because of that. Yeah. And people encouraged me to finish off the book, and I just kind of went with it. I'm a sucker for praise, so I just went, people are saying this is good, let's see if we can push it onwards.
You're right on the right podcast.
So did before all the Armstrong stuff came out, were you gonna go with an angle that involved so much nefarious activity, I guess? I mean, it feels hard to write a cycling book without doping coming up at some point, but was that all those revelations sort of a big inspiration for where to go with things?
In a way, I mean, definitely people in reviews have noted that I have read The Secret Race, and I definitely have used some of the stuff that's come out from Tyler Hamilton and Landis and all of that to inform the writing of it. But in a way, it wasn't specifically the Armstrong thing. It was more, I think I was already down that road with, other scandals. I mean, you look at the career of any Rasmussen, Ulrich, any
Valverde.
major cyclist.
We're big fans of Valverde. Greatest cyclist of the modern era. No, little guy, you had, when we were going over our notes, because it was actually fun, because it's like we had our own little Slow Ride podcast book club.
Yeah.
Little guy picked up on one of the things that also stuck out to me. So, little guy, why don't you go through?
Oh, there was a line I think that Liz says to Saul at some point. I can't remember if it's a phone call or what. She says something like black socks and white shoes, though, which I wasn't sure. Was that a dig at Armstrong? I feel like he was the first to really bring that horrid fashion sense out.
Horrible fashion.
But
black socks.
along with that, I mean, I don't know. You can tell us where that came from or not. But there was a few other little sort of cycling Easter eggs through the book where brings up other famous moments or riders or things, or
not just of doping, right? Yeah. Like I mean, it's clearly that Liz is Haven Hamilton to the T, without a doubt. You don't even need to answer that.
You just want that to be.
I just want that to be true. But there was a couple of other Easter eggs. So first off, was that a dig at Lance for bringing the horrible black sock fashion to cycling?
It wasn't. I'm really glad to read it's been interpreted as such.
Okay.
It was actually, yeah. I used to do athletics when I was a kid, and I was always too cheap to buy sports socks, so I do it in dress socks. I was always running in my vest and my shorts, and wearing a pair of socks that'd be better with some brown loafers on.
I'm glad it can go both ways like that.
So the book's fantastic. We're gonna recommend people to read it. I mean, there's really, but there are a couple questions that I've got. Little couple outstanding questions. Mostly, let me give you a little bit of Joe. I'm gonna you have to dumb down here for a second, but let me tell our listeners a little bit of what the team, which wears brown shorts from what I can pick up. Yeah. Which, by the way, great Easter egg, because AG2R, greatest team in professional cycling kit. I mean, we love it. So, well done. But here's the team. We have Fabrice. Fabrice is kind of like your team leader, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. He's French too, right? Fabrice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think unspoken, but
he's got a little Pinot in him. Really, he's a dreamer. Then you got Tsutomu, the Japanese domestique. Loved it. He has a super fan that follows along, which pretty much is the role that we would play. And then you have Johan the sprinter and his personal domestique Sebastian. So that's like your Cavendish and your Renshaw together a lot, two peas in the pod. And then you have Saul, the kind of English domestique, working his way up through the system, just kind of gets the job done, almost like a Hincapie. Maybe not winning as much, but here's the question: that's only 5 team members. We never get the other 3 team members. Now, we've role-played here a little bit. It's either that the first 3 didn't make the time cut in the tour, they're not important, or that's a sequel.
Oh, I like that third option.
So who are the 3 other riders on the team? What do you got? What didn't make the cut?
Oh, so I actually never met. I was so conscious that when people review novels, they're like, there are too many characters. Oh. So I just thought, I'm just going to put in as few as possible. And I mean, in a way, I felt like people reading a cycling novel might not notice so much as if you were writing a soccer novel and you're like, we've got 5 players on this team. I felt like people would be, but maybe the guys just didn't make the team time trial. There was a team time trial this year. And there was a puncher and...
Yeah, I can fill you in with a couple. Like, there's a couple of characters definitely missing. So
okay,
you need to have the other team leader, right? Like you have you have Fabrice, but then you need that TJ Van Garderen character that's not as good, but the entire weight of a country is placed on him to become the team leader, and he's still not that good. He should really be a domestic. So that would be the next rider. So Fabrice needs the one that's kind of nipping at his heels, and then he can at team training camp needs to put him back in his place.
I think Fabrice is too nice, in my opinion, for that. But
a little too nice for that.
But
yeah.
Joe can comment on that if not.
Okay. And then
sorry.
Oh no, then you need like the rookie, right? That they send home early. So like, there's one rider that like, hey, he was there for the first week, but he's a young Frenchman, 18, just too young, young to deal with the pressures of the tour. And we just don't want to break him early. Kind of like what they did with Indurain in his first tour. Remember, they like sent him home. They didn't want to ruin his morale. And I guess that's pretty much it. We could just assume that the tour moving forward is just going to have one less rider like this year.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could also assume that the book is set 5 years in the future and they've whittled it down to 5 riders. At that point, I mean, it's... I like it being left open. We got options to paint this world.
The team time trial answer that they didn't make the cut on the team time trial. That's good. Or maybe they crashed out the team time trial. There's a couple of other things that stuck out to me that I enjoyed. Let's talk about the professional peloton that you've got in this world of Saul's team. Little guy, why don't you pick your favorite team first, and then I'll go with mine, and we'll go back and forth, and we'll see what Joe's favorite team is.
I like the agricultural machinists, personally. I feel like they're going to be good this year.
The agricultural machinists, they're definitely like, oh, here come the machinists coming up in the pack to the front. I was more of a fan of the chicken nugget team.
Yeah.
Well done.
Our star team.
Is that just like a chicken Is it like a chicken fast food company that has decided to spend their budget? What do you got here, Joe?
I like that.
Yeah, it's a Belgian chicken parts.
Yeah.
I mean, they specialize in rendering chickens and then just making them into anything possible.
Oh god, that's
Yeah.
fabulous.
That's your
It's
process.
moldable, kind of like a Belgian rider.
Yeah, I really did enjoy the way the writers, or at least Saul's inner dialogue about the other teams was just sort of blankly what they represented on their jersey. I enjoyed that. It's comical, and I can relate to that even of just racing locally. And you're like, oh, here come those red jerks again.
Here come the dentists.
Yeah, here come those dentists up the other side. They're all sort of they're all interchangeable sometimes when they're on another team.
But the teams being so general was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Because the household cleaning products team,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
like that could be like the Mr. Clean squad. It could be the Windex squad. I mean, there's so much here.
Was your goal with that to show us how silly it is that we as cycling fans often become so invested in these strange teams? Because I feel like people get really into, like, they wear their Quick Step jersey and they don't even really know what it is. And at the end of the day, you might as well just be walking around in a jersey that says cleaning products on it. And that's what everybody else thinks when they see you, you know? I don't know. Was that
Yeah.
sort of your goal of
Yeah, it
absurdity?
was totally my goal. I mean, I'm a sort of soccer fan, and in a way, the teams over here, I mean, it's sort of 120-year-old team. We have this history. We have everything behind them. And then as a cycling fan, you have to explain to sort of soccer fans, no, I like this team that is represented by this obscure product that no one has heard of or uses outside of Northern Europe or something. I mean, Quickstep, I walked past a flooring showroom last year and saw Quickstep products on sale for the first time.
Joe, I was so excited when I came to Europe for the first time, maybe like 6-7 years ago, and one of the main I was so excited that I could give my money to Europe Car to rent a car. It was an extra like 10 euros a day.
Yeah, but you're
But
worth
the
it.
fact that I could maybe get like a Europe Car keychain or something out of it. I think I brought some stuff back.
You
to
did.
look
You
at,
brought me like a scraper, a little window ice scraper, I think.
I was so disappointed that at the Europe Car checkout counter, they didn't have a picture of Thomas Vogler and his tongue. Like I was so mad. I was like, how can you?
Branding opportunities missed. Yeah.
Europe Car, like the only reason I'm buying your car, renting it, is because you sponsor a professional team and you're not even acknowledging it in this experience.
Well, it's
Did
especially.
you rent it for 3 weeks and it was really good in the first week and then just declined in performance?
Well,
It had one good day. That car drove so nice on the third Wednesday, but the rest of the time just kind of sputtered along.
do you So the book itself is We Begin Our Ascent. It's available on Simon Schuster. It came out in June. The reviews that we've seen are positive. Not as good as our review will be. How have you felt about the reception? And then also, what's the time been like for you in the cycling world since June?
I've been so glad that people are reading the book, that it's getting reviewed. I mean, it's sort of a dream to be writing about, I think, what the rest of the world considers quite an esoteric subject in terms of professional cycling, and that getting that out with a major publisher and getting reviews on that book have just been wonderful. Of the reviews, I've had a few that sort of say I haven't totally got cycling details correct.
Oh,
and
who are they?
On that, I say my bad, because I mean, I think there are a few things I didn't, but I mean, in some ways, I wanted to make it clear it was a work of fiction. Yeah. I mean, I could have gone in and got every single French word right, but in a way, I sort of wanted to slightly people it with my own phrases to kind of make it clear that this is not the memoirs of Nicholas Roach or something.
Who would read that? Like, seriously.
I actually won that book in a competition. It's
okay.
Whoa.
So let's go to that. I want to touch on that just a little bit, because I thought it was well done. It was very clear after getting through the first little bit, first 10, 15 pages, that you were a cycling fan and a cycling aficionado. Like I didn't come across anything that was like, ooh, I don't know what he's talking about here. It's clearly a book of fiction. It's well, not clearly. I mean, there's so much real world in there.
I mean,
but
I guess.
But it's definitely a good book. What is the critique on some of the things that you've been identified and you're like, hey, my bad?
I think it's just language. And when the New York Times review just flagged up me saying a few things about, I can't even remember the phrases, but using like non-Peloton terminology, which...
And that was in the New York Times review?
Wow.
Yeah, in one of them.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that was their angle.
Although he did actually call my protagonist unnamed, which he is actually named.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Fact check on them too.
Yeah,
we got his name.
But it's good to
New York Times.
All right, yeah. Just so it's mostly language. I thought that the book flowed well and it had good.
I think part of what I really enjoyed was that cycling is so absurd, and from spending too much time paying attention to it like we do and talking about it all the time like we do, you can kind of just become used to the absurdity. And when you read a work of fiction about it, and as you're reading it, you think, people who aren't as deep into cycling as we are going to read this, and they're going to be like, there's no way this sort of stuff would happen. But as I'm reading it, like, this is so absurd, but this is all things that have happened.
Well, it's the Tyler Hamilton book, right? The Secret Race. And then I don't know, Joe, if you've ever had the chance to read the Willie Vogt book called Breaking the Chain.
I have.
That was the first book I ever read that really opened the eyes to me about how horrible our sport is. But then, so you can be really on the decline. And then, like was pointed out today by a cycling friend of ours, Adam Meyerson, he was all about, that happens. But then you see Michael Woods win a stage at the Vuelta like he did yesterday and dedicate it to his, unborn son. And that was like a, very powerful moment. And then you're like, it sucks you right back in, because it is like this beautiful sport that is tragic in ways. And then there's like the whole doping angle. Like there's the different levels of doping. Like there's the systematic ruin people's lives, Lance Armstrong system. And then you got the Tyler Hamilton kind of just getting into it, making the bad choices. Then you got Floyd Landis, who, that's just the craziest one, right? And that's just the American dopers. I'm not even getting into Jiffy bags and what's happening over there in England.
I was just thinking, as much as the book is about cycling, it's also about a terrible workplace. And
Raphael, not exactly the nicest boss.
And the way you have to make many terrible choices to make a living and to support your family and to advance your career. And do you have that feeling, I guess, generally that workplaces are corrosive?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I think part of the idea of writing the book for more than just cycling fans, not that cycling fans aren't an excellent audience in themselves, but part of the idea of making it general was thinking about the way sports reflect sort of contemporary economics in a way. I mean, the cycling, everything is there because it makes money. I mean, all the most negative aspects of our sport, I think, are sort of replicated in the economy. I mean, in a sense, Sol could be a trader in some mortgage brokerage selling mortgages to people who can't afford to pay them back for 2,000 years.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Probably fewer ethical lapses would occur.
I think I'm shocked that there isn't more fiction in the world of cycling. I think you did a good job of tackling it. The only other piece I can think of is the classic, Rider, the Rider by Tim Grabby or whatever.
Yeah,
brilliant.
And but I think you did a good job here. And I guess to end the cycling questions, because we are a cycling podcast, you're walking into the club, right? So like envision yourself walking into the club, and there's a line. I mean, there's a line. You're at the what is it, the Royal Mile there.
Okay. Yep.
And you're trying to get into the hottest club in town, but you have to wear a cycling kit to get in. So you get up to the doorman, and he's just like reviewing people, just going like, yeah, you're good, you're out, like you're not coming in. What kit are you wearing to get in that club, to be the king of the professional peloton? I want to know what your style is, Joe.
Is it obvious to say Jelly Belly? Do people always say Jelly Belly to this one?
Wow.
Oh, not always.
I've never asked this question before, but I may have to see.
We've definitely debated kits before, but Jelly Belly's a good choice. It's a silly kit. I like it.
So you're going for like the...
and for clubbing, that's a really good kit for clubbing. Like that's a good choice. I like that.
I'm bringing the party to the look at what I'm wearing. I'm wearing jelly beans all over me.
Well, a night of dancing and raving, good choice. That's
the Jelly Belly
perfect.
kit is a pretty good one.
All right,
I like that one. For me, I would clearly go with. I mean, The AG2R one, I
Oh,
think
nice.
is nice. But
The brown shorts for dancing.
if I'm going to the club, I think I'm going the new Movistar kit. That blue, I think would look pretty good underneath the neon lights. What about you, little guy?
I'm always Castorama.
The Castorama kit?
Lauren Fignon fan for life here. So,
You got to pick something current though.
no, I have to pick something current.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, the CCC Polska team. They'll be all orange. The
blaze
bright
orange,
orange. I guess I don't know. I can't
I like
do.
the Jelly Belly kit. That's a good one.
Yeah,
So,
that's really good.
do you got anything else? About
No, that's the best final cycling specific question, I think.
and then what's next for you? Do you have other books coming out? Do you have other projects?
Yeah.
I believe you're based in Edinburgh, in Scotland, for the foreseeable future. What do you got?
Yeah, so I'm working on another novel, not cycling based, unfortunately, but based on auction houses and selling paintings.
So, all right.
This sounds amazing.
So ethics will be a continuing theme.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
How's the workplace in an auction? Like what's the?
I think
Right?
equally
Who are
bad,
the
but
characters?
through different reasons. I mean, I guess the cycling workplace in Europe is bad, informed by a history of working class oppression, and the auction house workplace is bad, informed by a history of aristocratic oppression. So,
Oh, this is gonna be good.
All right. I love it.
Do you already have a title for it? Like you already know
it's
what
called
you're doing?
Hammer,
That's
actually.
It's called Hammer.
That's the working title,
Right.
because it also
Nice.
features an oligarch, so play on the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the hammer and sickle.
Oh
All right.
wow,
I
This
like
will be
it.
good. All right.
I'm looking forward to this. All right.
Well, I'd like to thank you for being on. I think that, do you have any questions for us? I mean, we are cycling experts, and we'd like to answer any questions.
Who's your
We will
favourite
probably
Scottish
miss it.
cyclist?
Favorite Scottish cyclist? I mean, I'm going to go Graham O'Brien.
Yeah, I will
think
say
that-
Aubrey.
Just
we
because
can't
the
think of anything
washing
else.
machine bearings are good. Who else is from up there? Who's the?
I'm blanking right now like a total
Where's
jerk.
Boardman from?
He's not
From
Scottish.
South, I think. I mean, David
he
Spear
South?
is Scottish, but was
Is
he
he?
born in Hong Kong or something? He's sort of
Yeah,
slightly
he
tenured
grew up there.
Scottish. I mean, he's very
No.
proud of Scotland, but.
Is Graham O'Brien? Is he a Glaswegian?
Ooh, good question. Possibly? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is that accepted there when you have guys like Miller? Like, how do people in the UK feel about people like Miller growing up on the other side of the world and they're like, no, I'm Scottish, or like Froome now he has a British license, but he's obviously not from there.
Yeah.
Is it people just willing to take them in because they're successful, kind of thing?
I mean, the thing with cyclists in the UK is people, I mean, we celebrate when someone wins the Tour, but people frankly don't care, I think, in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Cavendish can be a bit bratty sometimes, but I totally feel for him in the UK because he's constantly trying to win those Olympic medals and failing. And he could be if he was Belgian, he would be the most famous man in Belgium ever.
Yeah, definitely.
But
definitely.
he's just in the UK, he's slightly less famous than the 400th best footballer in the country. It's
That's true. It's totally true.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you got to go. I'm sure you got a hot ticket reservation at the Scranton Scally.
Oh, good knowledge.
Over in Edinburgh, and we'd like to thank you for being on the show. And yeah, so thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
What I want to talk to you about and talk to the listeners about is my Yuba Supermarche cargo bike. Mm-hmm. It's a front-loading cargo bike. So this is the type of bike that you would see. I mean, the first time I ever saw one was, or this style of bike was over when I was in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
A few years ago. I guess we've seen them kind of when you and I were couriers, and I remember going to like Montreal for the North American Courier Championships. I remember someone having like one of those like bullet cargo bikes.
Those are around
I think
a lot.
Yeah, the Larry versus Harry brand, and it's like the bullet. Now the different, like Larry versus Harry, I think has a 20-inch front wheel and then a 700C back wheel.
Okay. What's your super Marche?
Mine are 220s.
Oh, okay. Oh, really? 20 in
So-
the back. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a little bit smaller, but it's a smaller wheelbase.
Yeah.
But that leads to some pretty awesome time. I mean, I'll say this on the Yuba. The reason I bought the Yuba Supermarche is that the Larry versus Harry bullet was far too expensive from an import standpoint. So I'd be looking at least $5,000 to buy the bullet
For
here
the full
in the
bike.
States.
For the full bike.
Yeah. Now, I'm lucky since I work in the bike industry, I'm able to get, kind of employee purchase or industry bro deal, if you will.
Yeah.
I could not get that with the bullet. Like I could, but it wasn't at the level that made it financially feasible or reasonable for me to do it.
It wasn't bro with a capital B. It was like a lowercase bro.
Whereas I was very lucky to be hooked up with the folks at Yuba and Yuba Bikes out in California. And so the Supermarche retails at $2,800, and then you've got to build out the bike as you need it. So you get the full complete bike at $2,800, but then I had to buy the box that goes around. So it's a bamboo wood box that goes around the cargo section. And then I had to buy a baseboard, and I had to buy the seat. So that's about $400 in accessories.
Okay.
So retail, I would have spent about $3,300, but again, I was pretty lucky to get that price down quite a bit since I do work in the industry.
No. So it's 20-inch wheels. I'm assuming disc brakes, since it's
brakes.
The future.
Yes,
and it's internal hub.
It's not internal. It's a 3x.
Oh, it's the past.
It's a little weird because here in Florida, since it's so flat, I never need the like granny gear or even the middle gear, and I'm always topped out in the on the back on the trigger.
Oh, really?
So it's trigger shift.
That's right.
Yeah, so I've always got it on like the 4211, and that's the biggest gear.
Wow, you really mash. You're mashing as much as you can mash on the cargo bike.
Well, it's not, since it's so flat here, like, every now and then if we hit like an overpass or something. Now, I just until recently was able to get little Heimar in there because as he's grown, he's been able to get his feet flat on the carbo box floor.
Okay.
Now it's got a 5-point seatbelt harness, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love the bike. It took some getting used to because this is the craziest part about it is that it's cable actuated steering.
Okay.
So the way that the front moves is by the connection of the cable that runs underneath the cargo bay, if you will. Whereas I believe the Bullet, the Harry versus Larry Bullet, is
there's like a linkage, right?
There's linkage, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the big difference.
So do you have to? So what's the maintenance on that cable? Do you have to periodically It's just like a brake cable.
Yeah.
Is it thicker?
So I didn't put the bike together.
Yeah.
I have a friend here in Orlando that helped me put it together, and he said it came together very easy. Now, you know me, I'm not a mechanic connoisseur. Like, I happily pay for service because I value service, and service should be the most respected. Like, the mechanic is a profession. Yeah. I'm not a professional, so I would pay for the service.
Totally.
He put it together. He said it actually went together pretty easy. The maintenance on it, I haven't had any problems with it. I've maybe got 400 miles on it now, which, all things considered, the max I kind of ride this thing is maybe 6 miles a time because it takes 3 miles to ride my son to daycare and 3 miles back. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I've been riding it quite a bit.
So you're used to it? Like steering wise? I mean, we've got that cable.
It takes some
thing.
getting used to.
I mean, obviously it's just the length of it, but also just the feel of the steering is different.
The steering moves right away. So when you turn the bars, you move.
Yeah.
What I am starting to notice a little bit is that like the cable is almost stretched a little. So I'm starting to see a little bit of when the wheel is straight, the bars are a little to the side.
Oh, yeah, maybe a little adjustment
bit.
Needed.
So I kind of need to correct a little bit. But overall, the bike rides fine. Mm-hmm. The turning radius obviously is increased. It's a little goofy.
Yeah.
And there have been a few times, thankfully, that where I've been kind of railing the corners a little bit, that I'm good. My son's not in the car, in the cargo bay just yet. But if I turn too tight, like if I'm really trying to make a U-turn on a street because I forgot my wallet or something, it's pretty easy to dump the bike.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like when you turn that steering, the handlebars all the way to 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock, you're at, the thing leans over pretty easy.
So can you, on a normal width, what's a normal width? Like 80? I don't know. What's a normal width street? Can you make it from curb to curb? Can you pull a Yui, or do you need to do a 5-point? Are you like a truck, or are you like a sports car?
It depends on the speed. It's tight. I would say that. Like, yeah, I can get it done.
Okay.
But if I'm trying to like really rail it and move fast, then I probably got to put a foot down and kind of do a quick little reverse engineer and then go straight.
Okay.
I haven't taken it like on a critical mass yet. So Orlando has a pretty big critical mass, maybe about 1,000 people, or 800 to 1,000 people. So we're gonna go to the Halloween one. I'm a little worried about like navigating in like a pretty packed
Tight
crowd.
Spaces, yeah.
Yeah. But the
You haven't done
the
a
whole
race on it
build-up-
yet, is what you're saying, either. You haven't shown
Yeah.
up to the local crit or anything.
Now the hydraulic brakes, I mean, it's a pretty
Yeah.
cheap build out, like as far as the components. Now you can get higher, you can get like internal if you wanted. But you know, overall it's pretty good. The bike weighs in at 55 pounds.
I guess that's
And
not
it's got
bad,
fenders.
considering.
It's it's really not. And then since it's a Yuba, it's got that giant rear rack as well that's above the. It's like
Yeah.
I could easily put like one of those Yep Maxi like car seats on the back too.
So with little Heimar in the seat, do you have enough room like in the front? If you take him to the grocery store, do you have enough room to get
Yes.
4 or 5 bags of groceries or something, or what is it?
I can put 4 or 5 bag of groceries in there right now. Right now, so I have him sitting on the bench, and then I could easily put groceries in there. Right now, I just put a Bluetooth speaker, and he just dances the whole night away.
Okay.
But here's
That sounds good.
the biggest complaint I have
Okay.
is that since the cable routing from the handlebars goes down right where his helmet is when he's sitting in the cargo bay on the seat.
Like the brake cables or the
Brake
steering
cables,
link?
yeah.
Okay.
All of the cables, the way that they bulb out. So
Yeah.
if I'm turning, like that's always hitting, like the cables are always hitting his helmet, and every now and then he'll turn around to look. Now as he gets older, like he might be a little bit higher on that.
Yeah.
But it is a little strange, and I've got him propped up actually a little bit away from the rear of the cargo bay by a pillow, just to kind of create a little bit distance. So I don't know why that is. There is not a way to route the cables closer to the handlebars. It's just the way that they go out from the
Yeah.
the shifters and the brakes. So that's the only complaint I have. I think for the value, if I would probably pay full price for this if I had a little bit higher, I guess, income.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I had the money, I think it's a good valued bike. But it's also running up there at about $3,200, which for quite a few people is a lot of money to spend on them.
Yeah, they're not cheap. I mean, we've definitely thought about them, and it's been a lot of thinking about them because they're not cheap, but they are very practical, and
They're super practical. So
I can see it paying for itself eventually. But
now we live in Central Florida, and most families here are 2-car households. We're going to be going down to 1-car household. I have used this bike when there's been the emergency, like, hey, I got to go pick up little Heimar at school because daycare called. And then I can just jump on the cargo bike and go get him. I wish we had a little bit better infrastructure than we do, but it's decent. I mean, you start to learn where the roads are that you can ride. Another major positive is everyone notices this bike, and it's front facing with him. So like, I feel like I'm participating, and he absolutely loves it. So when he leave in the garage, when he walks by the bike, a lot of times he's trying to climb into the cargo bay. So he enjoys
cute.
that time together. So I feel people wave at me a lot more riding this thing.
Oh, I
like
bet
there's a
they
lot
do.
more people that are like, you could have the biggest jerk in a Pontiac, vibe, just riding right behind you and honking his horn or her horn, like really just wants to crush you. And then they come up next to you and then they're like, oh, hi, that's so awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like you get a different bunch of respect. Like I take the lane, I'm going 12, 14 miles an hour because that's kind of top speed in certain situations. And I don't get honked at the way I do like when I'm on my road bike.
Oh yeah,
in
on the road
spandex.
bike you're a jerk in spandex. But yeah, with that, I can see people have a different
Like on this
attitude
thing,
for it.
like I'm sitting upright.
Yep.
And people are like, oh, this is a little goofy. Now, I am thinking of getting an orange flag just to really
Off the back.
seal the deal.
Yeah. That'd be cool. I've thought for a long time, and I haven't done this, of just making a flag. You know, me and Caitlin have talked to making a family coat of arms, and then you could fly that over like the cargo bike or over the Burley in my case at this point.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But I haven't, you know, I mean, that's a day on the sewing machine and some design time I haven't done yet. But, you know, it'd have to be high vis. The coat of arms would have to be extremely high vis, right, to work. But
I kind of like this idea. Now, I'd be a little worried that someone would want to steal it from me. Like they were playing a game of capture the flag.
it could happen.
And then I would always have to search for my coat of arms.
Mm-hmm. It might happen.
Yeah.
But,
So-
you know, it might be worth the chance to really... This way, when you get out in a couple years and every other family has one of these in town, you walk outside and you know which Yuba is your Yuba because it's got your, you know, it's got dueling DeLucas up there on the flag.
I'm liking this idea of just creating our own flag. But yeah, I think the flag definitely needs to happen. But yeah, the major plus is that it's affordable in comparison to other cargo bikes.
Yeah.
It's it's practical as far as like what you can put in the cargo bay and everything that you can use on the bike.
Mm-hmm.
It is the negative is that the basic cable housing situation and how that's routed.
Mm-hmm.
And the
that
cable
bad.
actuated steering to me is a little janky. Like it's definitely the cheap way out versus
Yeah.
linkage is what I'm thinking. But I have not had any problems with it.
I
And
can
the
see it being
20-inch
fine.
wheels, I can actually move on those 20-inch wheels just fine. What's your take on the different wheel sizes?
I don't know. I can see why a lot of them do the bigger one in the rear, just in terms of speed. But
It seems like the Bullet is built to be more speedy, whereas this one's definitely to get. This is the grocery getter. I mean, this is the Chevy Lumina of cargo bikes.
well, it didn't. Well, I think it was a Bullet that I saw the photos of somebody trying to set the like kilo record with a cargo bike on the track. I think that was a Bullet. So I guess if you're gonna go try to set some kilo records, you get the Bullet, and if you're gonna be practical, you probably get the Yuba.
Go check it out. It's a Yuba Bikes. It's a Supermarche. Definitely utilitarian use.
Yeah.
Comes in at $2,800 retail, about $3,300 fully loaded.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, it's definitely improved our quality of life with little Heimar getting into the bike game. I enjoyed it, little guy. I've actually read a book, and now I'm riding a bike more often than ever before. So overall, just to get into this podcast was pretty good. The outcome was good.
Yes.
We'd love to hear your feedback. If you have any ideas for items that we want to review, or if you want to send us product to try review, we do get hit up quite a bit. So it's we've always have to deflect. It's a little bit different than the Slow Ride podcast, but we're trying to just navigate. Let us know what you think, and we'll make sure to get to it. But pretty much, this is Tim in Orlando.
Yeah, it's been Matt in Minneapolis, and we'll review you later.
Now, little guy, before we sign off
Okay.
on the review podcast, like we talk about Hencappy almost every episode on the Slow Ride podcast.
Yes,
We're going to need to come up with like a gimmick for the review podcast.
we will. I don't know if we have that yet. Do you have it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think we got to actually do a second episode to figure that out.
Yeah. Well, let's do that then. Let's do a second episode. That'll be our first gimmick.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. Talk to you later.